So now we have reached the last session of the second day of our 32nd Greek Economic Summit. And in this last session, we will discuss as to whether Greece constitutes a key opportunity for the creation of investment ecosystem where digital technology is the main future. It is my pleasure to welcome Ms. Julie Meyer, Chairman and CEO of the Viva Investment Partner, with whom I will chat in the next 25 minutes. So Julie, good to have you here. I have prepared a few questions for you, and in order to set the ground for discussion, unless you wanted to proceed with a very short intro, but I think the question will set the ground for you, okay? So my first question is, from your experience so far, is still investing in Greece a high risk for a capital venture investment?
Well, first of all, thank you, Elias. It's great to be here. And it's been, as we come to the close of 2021, I have to say, meeting you and the partnership so far, and having you on stage at my event in Mykonos in October with my community of investors and entrepreneurs from all over the world was a highlight for me. So thank you for having me back. And it's a really interesting opening question, because in Mykonos, at the Follow the Entrepreneur Mykonos, we announced the Mykonos Decade. And what we meant by that was this incredible place that Mykonos has become, with which Greeks love to own and embrace and then say also, but it's not ours, it's not Greece. It actually is because it's been off the charts successful. Mykonos is an incredible investment opportunity. It has been, I think it continues to be, and it represents the ongoing excellence of this country, this community of people, and their ability to create. And why we called it the Mykonos Decade is because we believe that Greece will continue to achieve levels of excellence that the world will then embrace, and that the risk and uncertainty is in fact leaving Greece, and that institutional money will therefore flow in. And that is starting to happen in Mykonos, that is starting to happen in property in general, and in Greece in general, and in urban renovation. And you can just as easily, as a venture capitalist here in Athens today at De Capo Cafe in Kolonaki, I can turn right and see one of my friends from London, or turn left and see one of my friends from Athens. It's kind of, people are coming to Athens because there's a good buzz in the air for it. And, I don't want to say buy low, sell high, but buy into a reasonable infrastructure compared to where I live in Zurich, which is the social charges are incredibly high, right? They've priced themselves out of the market in terms of technology. I think what we have in Greece is high quality technical talent, reasonable operating costs, emerging infrastructure, and therefore you have the right components for the cocktail needed to build new companies, new growth ventures, and so forth.
Well, very great words, actually. I think you can be a very good seller for Greece, actually. But anyway, speaking about Mykonos, is only Mykonos the only place, or you're thinking of some other places where you can have similar summits being organized in the future?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Is Mykonos the only place where the summit you organize, or there will be some other areas in Greece you have in plans?
Yeah, no, thank you for letting me clarify that. Mykonos is obviously just a globally recognized brand. And so if I tell one of my friends from, Miami or, Connecticut or whatever, that the summit's going to be in Mykonos, yes, of course, I've always wanted to go to Mykonos, and so forth. In reality, they come over for 10 days, and they stop at Paros and Milos and Santorini and Crete and, Spetses, wherever they're going to go. And then they spend 5 days or 7 days in Mykonos. So we'll be continuing to do our pre-summit, whereby we bring our investors and entrepreneurs. This is going to be the 13th year coming up, to spend 2 or 3 days as a community on the boat here and there, meeting people. And then we spend 2 days at the Royal Mykonos, where they're on stage. Now, we probably will keep the actual summit in Mykonos, just because it's easy to get into for international flights and all that. But for sure, we're doing some of our events in Kia, as you know, Tia. I still can't pronounce it, but Kia. Zia, Kea, just down from Lavrio Port, because that's also, this part of the places that I call home, and that was my COVID baby. We have another platform there called Connaissance. In fact, I just had one of the most well-known investors from Silicon Valley spend 4 days in Connaissance. After 4 days, he decided to buy 2 homes. He said, I see absolutely everything that you see in Kia, all of your plans to develop it. He met Christos Flakos, who is globally recognized. He happens to be Greek, but he's globally recognized in eco-living, bioclimatic architecture from Kia. Was blown away by Christos Flakos, went down to see the one and only, blown away by the one and only Kia. And he said what I said when I first went to Kia. I said, this is Lake Tahoe in Greece, right? Which I always have thought that Greece is the California of Europe. And when I go to California, I think it's the Greece of America. There's strong similarities to where I grew up.
Speaking about, Mykonos or Gia, Kea, whatever you call it, people, the people who are following right now, they might think that your primary sector of interest is real estate. Is that, or just as, let's say, it's the nice place where you can have, the people come and discuss other business opportunities?
Real estate is really new for me personally, as well as for Viva. It's such an obvious thing because Greece is geographically blessed. I find it hard to come to this country and not want to kind of, go places and try to set up roots in different places here, because I'm always planning, well, I do need to go up to Skiathos and see that place, and I still haven't been there, and so forth, because it's just so beautiful. So it's natural to want to own a piece of it, and of course, from a private equity perspective, to have real assets on your balance sheet right now is a good thing. I have to say, I've been terribly impressed with the Greek banks. To the question about risk and uncertainty and so forth, I met the head of private banking at Optima yesterday. Superb individual. Just in general, I think they're cool. Eurobank has been an outstanding partner. They were in Mykonos, as you know, and they were on stage, and everybody thought Andreas Thomopoulos does a great job explaining how to work. And they've been, reaching across the table. As I bring my friends down, Eurobank has been fantastic to work with. We had, Vasily Koutentakis of Piraeus Bank speak at FT Kia last year, head of retail banking, and we just have had great experiences with banks. Personally, therefore, I introduce them to my friends. They come to our conferences, they mingle, they develop relationships, and they've been great to work with. So when you have good banking, financial partners, geographically blessed, country, you want to invest in property.
Do you think the latest development law, the framework that the government announced, or the latest incentives that the government provides right now are very interesting, to the investors? Is it something that attracts, investors here in the country more than before?
Yeah, I've tried to stay up on all of them. I have been impressed with the quality of the leadership, as you know. Right now there just continues to be a premium to being in the EU. We have operations in London, we're Zurich, Swiss investment corporation, but to be in the EU makes sense. I mentioned, some of the lower cost of operating, so we're moving our portfolio companies in. I had lunch with Athena Chasperu of Hellenic Development Bank and her team the other day, and when you look at the funding that they've managed to get into the market in a systematic, clear way to SMEs, if I compare it to other countries that I operate in, I don't want to mention names, but I think they're doing an outstanding job. So I look at bringing in the 3 or 4 companies that are in energy, in environmental technology, which qualify, and I say, guys, set up in Greece, right? I know some of the professors at the institutions here that have incredibly well-trained technical PhDs that can join the firm. And I've been friends with Greek entrepreneurs like Andreas Raptopoulos of Matronet for 12 years, who first told me about the high quality of talent. So I think you can have what you need as a technology startup here. And so from a venture capital perspective, if your portfolio companies do well on, higher or equally high talent, lower operating cost, people are just going to be happier if they can work outside more of the year and so forth. There's a reason why Silicon Valley happened where it did in California and not in Minnesota. It's just part of being geographically blessed. But the access to education, and frankly, I've always been a believer that the Mediterranean ecosystem, which is the second largest GDP zone after the United States, it just doesn't hang together as a GDP zone, that something big's going to happen over the next 20, 25 years, maybe 10, but also access to the EU. And so I think of Greece as more than just Greece. I think of it as the Balkans. I think of it as Southern Europe. I think of it as Mediterranean ecos. And then I think of the history and the capacity of this country to create with the diaspora. I mean, in California, where I'm from, the Greeks dominate property, right?
Of course.
Absolutely dominate it. Nobody can get into the market in Northern California.
There's some very good real estate there.
Yes.
Big names, actually.
Yes.
So why should a venture capitalist investor invest in Greek startups today? I mean, what they're looking for here? And
I think I kind of pride myself on having seen things a little bit earlier. I was doing fintech way before it was hot in London. I helped the monetize guys from 2 people to £1 billion exit. And so, I think the reason why you should become a venture capitalist is because you trust your judgment on listening to a couple of guys or a couple of girls talking about their vision for the future, and you can see the blue ocean, and the white space doesn't bother you. And so you're always looking for people that see things that are not in the market yet. And so what's been fascinating to me as I meet entrepreneurs all across Greece is they come up with ideas that just I know fundamentally the same kind of level in Zug or Zurich, United Kingdom, would not find. There's different challenges, different problems, different geographical meets social meets business, etc. And so I'm finding myself saying, oh wow, God, isn't that interesting what they said? I didn't even see that as a problem, and they're already trying to solve it. And then you think, oh, but that's applicable there as well. And so it's there's an opportunity, frankly, to make money because somebody's spotted a sizable market opportunity. They're putting in their money, solving a problem. I've been fascinated all day long as we've been talking about the challenges going on in the world. And what I've learned for 30 years is that just follow the entrepreneur. He or she has the answers to the problems that society is facing. And that's what I've done all of my career, is just follow the entrepreneur. So the quality of entrepreneurs and the problems that they're solving. And I think Greece will be in a situation not too dissimilar from Silicon Valley, where people will say, I'd just rather be part of this conversation because it's a better conversation. I like everything about the way this conversation is happening. And that happens from, all of the things that we've been touching on. And once you get that going on, where people just feel they're having a better set of conversations, you know that you've created the right kind of ecosystem. And that's what, it just feels like that's happening here.
Well, tell us a few things about the Viva Partners, the investment partners. Which investment opportunities does your firm is looking for here in particular?
Well, we acquired a business a little bit more than 2 years ago called Drive Software Solutions. It was our first business in electric vehicles, and it was a business that we completely rechanged. In fact, we just announced a new CEO, redid the board, management team. They were in fleet management, shifted them really into electric vehicles. That's enabled us to be part of a massively emerging blue ocean around electric vehicle sustainable mobility. that maps to a whole set of opportunities in Greece from the electricity companies that'll be going into charging networks. We obviously saw the Volkswagen, Astapalia, again, Hellenic Development Bank. So the prioritization of that sustainable mobility ecosystem in Greece means that we bring a company like Drive Software Solutions into the Greek market, right, which then helps it expand into a whole new region. We then find as a result of that other adjacent opportunities. We are bringing into Greece a company, which I can't mention the name right now, but it's in hydrogen. And, that's part of that same energy, environmental, green technology mix. And we put them on stage in Mykonos. And we are looking to make a bigger investment ourselves in them. And it was absolutely because of what we were hearing on the ground in Greece, and because of the first investment in Drive Software Solutions that we're in that mix more. So we were much more involved in, financial services and logistics and so forth. And we're much more aligning ourselves into energy, green technologies here. There were a number on stage at the FT Mykonos. Sabian Technologies are also looking to move in potentially into the Greek market and so forth. So our investment strategy is shifting as we spend more time here and we see how big these markets are.
Sure. We've been talking all day. Actually, this is the main subject of our summit this year, about the ESG, the green finance and everything. When you are looking for companies to invest, either you or your surrounding, let's say your friends, and are ESG criteria something that you're really count on when you're picking up investment opportunities?
The criteria that you've been...
The ESG criteria, the corporate governance, the social responsibility, and the environmental also concern. Are these three pillars of... are you considering them when you pick up investments?
Absolutely. I think of corporate governance, I think first and foremost about the DNA of the team and the character and the track record of excellence and the commitment to quality and so forth. If you have high quality individuals, a lot of corporate governance starts off on the right foot. And then you do need to bring together supportive but balances on the power structure and so forth. In terms of the environmental challenges and social impact and so forth, the individual I mentioned who spent the past weekend in Kia and so forth is one of the most important investors in that space in the world. He has over 12 investments in that space and is looking to really move into the Greek market because of Greece's focus on those areas. I think there's a very strong desire to map a focus on positive social change, and I feel that in this market much more than I do in other markets without mentioning names. And what I would say is, from the government top down, is there's a desire to make money, and I think we need to be super clear that making money as a firm solves a lot of problems. The company Drive that we took over was a great product technology company, but there were elements of it that were a bit like a charity shop when we took over. They were forgetting to invoice for some of their work, and if you make a lot of money, you have an ability to pay people better, to put in the proper structures and so forth. And so the profit motive is so important because it gives you the ability to create the right kind of structures and take care of people and cultural. The scarcity mentality that comes out of not doing well as a firm is one of the drivers for some of the bad behavior. So it's just really important to help entrepreneurs learn how to become profitable and successful. Right. It sounds very basic, but it's got to go along with the desire to do well as well.
Well, that's why there are mentorship and all these coaching, and actually in our chamber sometimes provides this kind of information or, let's say, advices, to the startups. But speaking about startups, speaking actually about your involvement these last years with Greece, have you identified any serious impediments that we need as a country, as a government, as whatever, to, let's say, fix them, to work on them?
I go in and out of so many different, like I say, I'm a Swiss resident. I live in Zurich. And so, I could tell you, off the record, the good and the bad. I'm an American citizen. I could definitely tell you the good and the bad there. And I lived for 23 years in Britain. So when I look at, the good and the bad of this environment, what I find is a positive. People will say, this about the property, and they'll say, but we're bringing in the digital property ID, and I think people are proud of the changes that are coming in because of the digitization due to COVID and so forth. People are very proud of the government. Without question, I hear positive things, and they feel, even the Greek entrepreneurs that were on stage, when they said, I said, is this the time that Greek goes big and so forth? They kind of say, well, we talked to our parents and they're a little bit, and then they say, yes, this is it. There's an optimism and energy and a feeling that this could be a high velocity decade for Greece. And that is contagious. And I don't find that contagiousness elsewhere in Europe. And so you do have, every once in a while, of course you have, a taxi driver or a bartender or whatever, somebody who kind of doesn't get the excitement. But overall, I don't find structural issues. What I find is just a country, which is like a company, which is in high growth mode. And so you have things that are sometimes slightly at different, this is going up here and this is still moving up here. But just that, there's a data company that is talking about building an intra-island network. Autonomous data collections, we're a founding shareholder of it, and the number of people who got excited about that, from wanting to sign up immediately and become a customer, to some of the biggest tech investors in this country with other transportation systems that want to invest. I mean, that's becoming a reality inside of 4 months. Wouldn't it be cool to be able to deliver goods through drones and collect data in the Greek islands? And the excitement around that has been palpable, right? So I think it's more, when you have good things happening, the bad just seems to fade away. The negative comments seem to fade away. It's not that they're not there. It's just that the good is contagious.
Yes, yes. I have a question. How can Europe compete better, and how Greece can be a major player in that? I mean, we all know that Europe is lagging in terms of innovation from, comparing to US or even China right now. So how we can compete better here?
Oh, I love that question. The whole birth order theory of life, where you fit in, right? The elder child has a lot built into the status quo, right? If you are the eldest child, if you are the heir to the estate, you don't really want to disrupt, blow up the factory, the winery, or whatever. You want to kind of preserve, right? And the later born children kind of want to, well, hey, I'm not going to inherit that, so I'm going to go build the new. And so, being a later born child, I've always really understood that difference, and I felt coming in, I thought, wow, this is much more of a eldest child mentality in Europe, which is it's not negative at all, by the way. In some respects, it's much more positive, because we've definitely moved in an innovation cycle where, say, in 2010, where companies like Uber were being able to be created with almost a zero cost of capital. If you have a later born mentality, you just say, let's just recreate the entire taxi industry, and if it takes us 10 billion of cash, tant pis, so what, let's go, right? But if you want to preserve what's there, you do it differently, which which is not a bad idea if you want a little bit more social coherence in the process. But the real advantage that Europe has is that it's a market of 500 million people. And it has, since 2012, and Vivian Redding's work, who happens to have a villa in Kia, where we've spoken about this. She was the pioneer of GDPR in Europe. She wrote the original legislation and organized the team that did it, but really was the pioneer of that. Europe has the ability, and I think it would be the game-changing move, to assign property rights to individuals, and it could do it. Where we are right now with the way that we manage data for individuals, it's like a stick rather than a carrot. If we were to enable people's personal economies and to create a marketplace of 500 million people where their personal economies were enabled by property rights for their own data, then they would have an asset. The difference between wealthy people and people who are not wealthy is people like us own things. Mm-hmm. And if we really want to change the game, and if we really want to create wealth, every single person in the EU needs to own things. And so if you can start by giving them their data as an asset, that's capable of being done in Europe. It needs some leadership and some vision, but it needs what you described earlier, that desire for social positive things to happen, and not just that, the world is not just about making money, but it's about the distribution of value to the individual. And what's more valuable than your own data, and it should be rightfully held by yourself. That ethos, I think, is a European ethos. That's not going to be created by the e-lords out in Silicon Valley. That their algorithms, from Google to Facebook to Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft, they recognize the value of individual data in their algorithms. It's just accruing to the balance sheets of those e-lords. We can do that differently in Europe, and that would be, I tell you, that would get talked about in the boardrooms of those companies. If Europe were to lead on property rights for individual data across 500 million people, even just to make an announcement that was going to happen, and what that would give is then the EU's ability to essentially create a massive sovereign wealth fund with the revenue coming from the ownership of that data until Europe's technology entrepreneurs figured out exactly how that could be assigned to the individual. That's the level of leadership that I think Europe is about. And I know that we could figure out, from the legal property rights to the technological applications, the monetization of data, I know that could happen. I'd love to see that level of game change, because back to the metaphor, if I try to be my sister, I'm always going to be a second-rate Melanie. I can only be a first-rate Julie. And so I tire of the desire of Europe to be a Silicon Valley. It's just not relevant. Greece has an opportunity to be a first-rate Greece, and it's achieving it. And Europe should not try to be, like Silicon Valley. Europe is about its Mittelstand. We need to get the VC-backed startups and the Mittelstand to grow together and to engage together, because the empire really is striking back. Those Elias and the established companies are embracing the enabling technologies, but I would argue not quickly enough. So my job is to do that for my portfolio companies. And I think what you've done here today, getting the corporates together or getting me into your community, just keeps on bringing together the startup and the corporate platforms. Had a conversation with your partner at BCG, and I think these ways to connect are very valuable.
Thank you very much, Julie. It was a very inspiring conversation we had. I appreciated you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, we reached the end of the second day of the summit. We hope you enjoyed all the topics and the thematics. So we are continuing tomorrow with the third and final day of the summit. So we're looking forward to see you again back tomorrow. Have a good night.